because there was a conveyor belt problem in London. Said, "Oh, your bags will arrive tomorrow morning." I was like, "I can't tomorrow morning because I have a flight to Frankfurt at like 7 a.m." And she was like, "Oh, where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going to Havana, but I'm going like around the world to Havana." And she was like, "Oh, don't worry, it will be sent to Havana."
Hello, welcome to another podcast episode. We're starting with music this one, and we're welcoming Joanna. Joanna, hello, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, and thank you for joining once again. Joanna, you're gonna share an interesting story with us, a story that has bad turns one after another against you. Yeah, I mean, you started telling me, I was like, hold on. I just want to hear it first time. I want to have a genuine reaction. And I'm really interested, can't wait to share it with me and with the viewers and listeners. But before that, Joanna, please, can you tell us a bit more about yourself? Like, who are you? Where do you come from? What's your connection with traveling, and anything important you might want to share?
Well, I was born in Romania. But I've been living in England for the past, I think, 8 years.
8 years. Oh,
so
something similar to me. Where do you live now?
Now I'm just outside London, but I lived for quite a bit in Poole, just
Poole?
outside the Jurassic Coast. Yeah, near Bournemouth.
Okay.
So I was really lucky to have the Jurassic Coast as my backyard. I did a lot of hiking there. So I have a journalism experience. So I've finished the journalism university, and I've done a master in multimedia production. I worked a little bit in radio. That was my first love. I always saw myself working in radio, but it seems that writing took over. I've always had, I always wrote. I always had something on which I wrote, like a website or even notebooks in school. But I've had my blog, The World in My Pocket, for about 6 or 7 years now. I also have two other blogs. One is dedicated to Andalusia, this in south of Spain. And I have another one about golf on Costa del Sol. That is a collaboration between me and two golfers, because I have no idea how to play golf.
Okay. So first of all, we have 3 blogs, which is mind-blowing.
Yes.
Was that?
Yes, it is.
I don't know how you find the time for 3 blogs. 1 and 2, you write blog articles for a sport that you don't play.
No, I don't write them. I just do all the proofreading, all the optimizing, all the SEO, and also edit the photos. But no, I don't write it because I would not know how to write.
Okay. That makes a bit more sense. But okay, so Andalusia, I mean, you told me that you live in Andalusia, and I'm really interested to do an episode with you about Andalusia. Yes, we have already an episode about Andalusia, but I'm always curious to find other points of view, because what one person knows, that doesn't mean that the other one knows it. But this is a different topic. So when did you start your blog, your actual blog, and how did it all started?
It actually first started in Romanian, and it was a journal, because I went all the way to Vietnam by train. So
from Romania?
Yes, from Romania.
Oh my God.
So before I embarked on this journey, I told you I worked a little bit in the radio industry. So one of my friends from a radio station in Romania gifted me the domain. I just started to keep up with my trip. And then when I moved to England, I just changed the domain into English. And it was just like a journal for about a year. And then I started to actually see that it's a serious thing. Like I started to join meetings in London, and I met other people that do the same thing. And I discovered the community of travel bloggers in England, and it was just fantastic, and it was so inspiring. And now it's like a full-time job.
Okay. So you keep writing, keep it active now?
Yeah, I did not stop during the pandemic. I try to do one article every week.
Nice. So is going to Vietnam was that your first ever time going outside of Romania?
No, that was actually the first long haul, so the first out of Europe trip.
Well, yeah, definitely something, train from Romania to Vietnam. Crazy. Okay, were you alone, by the way?
Sorry?
Were you alone?
I left with the friend, and then when we reached China, we realized that we wanted to see different things. So each of us kind of like took its own way, and then we met back again in Malaysia because we had a flight together. So we did half of the trip together and half of the trip apart, which was good because I think both of us got that confidence of traveling together. And then we had, we believed in ourselves that we can do it on our own as well. Like he wanted to see some mountains in China, and I'm terrified of heights, and those mountains have like a proper drop. And yeah, I wanted to see Hong Kong, and he was more interested in Shanghai. So we were like, okay, well, let's just do what we want to do, and then
thanks a lot, but I'll see you later.
Well, not really. We kept in contact all the time, but yeah, instead of dragging each other, to do things that we didn't want to, we decided that we should go enjoy our trip and then meet at the end.
Makes sense. Okay, let's move in that case to the story today, which has a lot of flights in it. What you want to start telling us? How it all started, what's happening?
So I always wanted to go to Cuba, but flights to Cuba are very, very expensive. So when I found this kind of like around the world flight to Cuba for like, I think it was like £400, I booked it. So instead of going directly to Havana from London, I went London to Milano, Milano to Frankfurt, Frankfurt to Toronto. I had a whole day in Toronto, and then from Toronto, finally,
wow,
I had the flight to Havana.
Wow. Okay. So first of all, when is this happening? Which year?
I think it might have been 2014 or 2015. I'm not sure. Somewhere around
about
there.
7-8 years ago. Okay. 2016. So I would assume probably flights are more expensive now, but you paid £400, you said, right?
Yeah, I usually fly, like I usually do a long trip around Christmas and New Year's. So on Christmas and New Year's, the flights were really expensive. So I found this flight with the return on the 1st of January. So from the New Year's Eve party in Havana, I went to the airport directly.
So you pay 400 against, what was the direct flight price?
So I think during that period was about 800, 900, something like
800.
That.
Okay.
Because
so
of the
about
Christmas,
about half price, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, well, it's crazy. You're going the wrong way and then you're going back. Okay. So then what happened?
So I boarded my first flight, which was, in London, was the last flight of the day. And I planned to spend the night with a friend that I haven't seen in a long time in Milano.
It's good to have friends.
I have friends all over the world.
Yeah, that's good.
So I boarded the flight. The flight was a bit late, but anyway, it was, like a normal flight. We landed in Milano, and I went to get my bag, and there was a lady there who was saying, "Oh, everybody from London, your bags haven't been put on the plane because there was a conveyor belt problem in London." Said, "Oh, your bags will arrive tomorrow morning." I was like, "I can't tomorrow morning because I have a flight to Frankfurt at like 7 a.m. And she was like, "Oh, where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going to Havana, but I'm going like around the world to Havana." And she was like, "Oh, don't worry, it will be sent to Havana." Spoiler alert, it has never been sent to Havana. Yeah.
Well, you ruined the story for us. Your luggage never arrived. Oh my God.
Yeah, the luggage never arrived. No. I had to have a 3 weeks holiday in Cuba without clothes.
Oh dear. What was the weather in December?
It was really hot.
At least you
And
didn't have to buy
I did
much.
try to do, I did try to buy. Yeah, Cuba is one of those places where you can't just go to the shop and buy clothes.
You
It's
can't.
no,
Why
it's
not?
different. Because I mean, I don't know how it is now, but back then, it was just different. It was just it's very it was very hard. Like even now, like with the internet, you don't really get internet in Cuba, and you can't just buy like essentials. You have to go to like specific stores, and yeah, I tried to do some shopping in Toronto, but obviously in Toronto in December you don't really find summer clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole wardrobe was given by other people that I met in Havana.
Okay, so
Uh,
you don't wait for your luggage. You're in Italy. You're sleeping over with your friend, and then you take the flight in the morning.
yeah, so then I took the flight in the morning. I went to oh, because I had to do all the paperwork in Milano. I lost the last bus that was going into the town, and there were no taxis either. And I've seen this bus, and I just went to it. There was a driver, and luckily I speak Italian, not great, but we could understand each other. And I asked him, how can I get into town? And he was like, well, you can't. And I was like, well, how do I get into town? Like, I don't mind sleeping at the airport, but my next flight is from a different airport in Milano, because Milano has like 3 airports. So he was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to the garage, but, just jump on. So I got on the bus, and he asked me for my friend's number, and he called my friend. Wow. And he found out where she lived. And then he took me like wherever, like halfway. And he said, oh, now I'm going to the garage. Like, I can't take you to your friend's house. But then he stopped the taxi driver, and he told him where to take me. And he said, do not leave until she actually enters the house. Yeah, so that was so nice, like really nice. Yeah, and then I slept probably about 3 hours, and then I had to wake up and then go to the other airport in Milan. So I caught my next flight, which was fine, went to Frankfurt, then went to Toronto. I spent a great day in Toronto, just exploring. It was my first time in Canada. I tried to do a little bit of shopping, but again, it was not very successful because you can't get summer clothes in December in Toronto. And then I went back to my hotel, had a great sleep, and I woke up in the morning, again, 6 o'clock, to catch my flight to Havana, which was like probably about 9 a.m. I got to the airport, passed through security. I went to the check-in as well, because you had to go to check-in to get your boarding pass. And they gave me a boarding pass, but they said, oh, you'll get your seat at the gate, which I thought it was a bit weird. Like, why would I get my seat at the gate? So I passed through security, went to the gate, and I said, well, they told me I'll get my seat at the gate. And the lady there, she said, oh, no, the flight's overbooked. You're not on this flight. I was like, what? You've been bumped from this flight on the next flight. I was like, when's the next flight? At 8 p.m. I was like, what? It's 9 a.m. So yeah, I had to spend the whole day in the airport. They gave me a voucher to eat, and they gave me like a phone, like I don't know how it's called, like, to be able to call internationally.
Like a
so
card with credit. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. So I had to call in Havana and tell them not to wait me at the airport at 12 p.m., but to come after me at 12 a.m.
So in Havana, you don't know anybody?
No, but I had my transport booked.
Yeah. Okay. But you don't know anybody, and you're traveling solo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was joining a tour, like a 10-day tour in Havana. Because I usually travel on my own, but I thought Cuba is a bit difficult to travel on your own. So yeah, I booked a tour, which was great, fantastic. But yeah, so they booked, they asked me if I wanted an airport transfer as well, and I paid for that as well. But then I had to call them and say, oh, don't send the driver because I'm not coming. Yeah, and then I just spent the whole day in the airport, made some friends. And then in the evening, when I finally boarded my flight, the person next to me was a young man. He said, oh, I've seen you in the airport. He said, I've been bumped as well.
You gotta say, yeah, I work at the airport.
Yeah.
All day I was there.
Yeah, he was bumped as well from the plane before. So finally, I arrived in Havana. It was midnight by this point. It took me about half an hour to find a driver. Finally, I find him, and then he drives me to the accommodation, and somebody comes down, because in Havana, you have hotels and you have casa particulares, which are privately owned homes. A bit like B&Bs, but I think they're only allowed to rent, at least back then, they were only allowed to rent 2 rooms in their house to make an extra income. I mean, the government takes 90% of it anyway, but at least they can interact with foreigners and they can, live a better life. Yeah. So we knock on the door. By this time, it's like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. I don't even know. I was so tired that, yeah, I don't remember much. But I remember that this kid comes to the door, opens the door, and we explained that I have a reservation. And he was like, there's no reservation.
What?
So I was like,
oh, wait, well, were you supposed to do the reservation or this tour that you booked?
The tour.
The tour. So
yeah.
Where did you sleep?
They had an empty room. So they allowed me to sleep in the room. And later I found out that he just didn't know that that was the room for me. So that was actually my reservation, but he didn't know because it was 2 a.m. They expected me at 12 p.m. Yeah, so they didn't know. So anyway, because of the jet lag, I slept until very late. I woke up probably about 10, 11. I had breakfast and then went back to bed. But after I had breakfast, it was really hot. So I went downstairs to buy a bottle of water. And I got into this shop. And there was this guy just behind me in the queue. And, an older guy, beard, he was maybe, 50, kind of like dirty looking, but not dirty because he was homeless, dirty because he was working. So later I found out he was an electrician and he was changing the lines in the ground. So I asked for a bottle of water and they gave me the bottle of water and it was, I don't know, about $3. And he does that to me. And he says, oh, don't buy water from this shop because it's very expensive. You should buy water from the corner shop, which is very cheap. Now, he was speaking in Spanish, and I understand Spanish because Romanian is very, very similar. But I can't speak it. So I said, yeah. Got my bottle of water, went out, went back to my accommodation, went to sleep. And I woke up again, probably about 7 p.m. And I decided, like, okay, I could sleep some more, but, I'm in Havana. Let's just go and explore. So I went out and just followed the map randomly. And I was like, I'm going to go to the Malecon because that was the only place I knew in Havana. So I started making my way towards the Malecon, looking at the map. And as I crossed a street, I saw the same guy in the shop. He was in a bus station waiting for his bus home. And I looked at him and he looked at me and it was just like, what? Like this was in a totally different part of town where we first met. So he came to me and he said, you have to come have a coffee with me.
What?
And I was like, no, it's fine. He was like, no, this is coincidence. You have to have a coffee with me. He says, I'm not a cheat. I'm going to pay for it. It's fine. Let's go have a coffee because this is mind blowing. So I was like, okay, let's just go have a coffee. And what can happen? We're going to have a coffee in like this, a local bar, whatever it was. So we went and had a coffee, and he was speaking to me, and I understood what he was saying, but then there was this problem in communicating back. So we had a coffee, and then I saw that the people in that bar knew him. So they were coming to him, oh, how are you? Oh, you okay? Everything. So I realized he wasn't like, a dangerous person, or, he was just a normal person.
So, but you realized that after you went with him to have coffee.
Yeah. I tend to do these kind of things.
Okay.
I mean, it was a public place. It wasn't like I was going to his home or anything. We just went to it was a bar at that time of the evening. It wasn't a coffee shop. Mm-hmm. And then after that, he said, oh, I have something for a friend of mine. I need to leave this with him. And he said, well, you wanted to go to the Malecon anyway. So, and he lives near the Malecon. So it's like, okay, let's just go together. So we went, and then I got to meet his friend and his family. And they were so excited that I was there. Again, they gave me coffee. They were so welcoming. And it was just so nice. And we agreed that, okay, let's meet the next day as well. He was working, and he said, oh, I'm working until 2:00 or 3:00, but we can meet after that. It's like, okay. And he took me back to my accommodation, and he waited until I got in to make sure I was safe. And yeah, we met the next day, and he said, oh, you have to meet my sister. And,
what? Okay, so hold on. Did you spend your whole time with this guy?
No, but this was like, as I arrived in Havana, I didn't know anybody. I was there a few days before my tour. So yeah, it was just, so the next day I met with him, and then we took the ferry, which no tourist will ever take. And we went and met his sister and his kids, and they showed me how they do, like the husband, he was doing this piping things. So I actually got to see how like a normal family lives in Havana. It was fascinating. And we used like public transport, like we used those cars, like those vintage cars that as a tourist you are charged like a fortune to ride into. But if you're local, they use them as taxis, but it's like communal taxis. So you can have like up to, I don't know, 5 people inside, and each of them gets off at a different stop. So it just tells the driver where you want to get off, and then the driver just stops there. It's quite chaotic, but it works.
So how did your trip end?
Well, after at the end of the day, he took me to the restaurant where I would meet the people from the tour. And then I did the tour, so went around Havana. Then I went to Varadero because I planned a few days at the beach. I always do that. Like when I travel, I always leave the last few days just to relax somewhere on a beach. And then we met again for the New Year's Eve. And he wanted to take, like at this point I was with 2 other girls from the tour, and he wanted to take us to see how they cook a pig, because that's the tradition in Havana to cook a pig. It was one of these experiences that, it just shows you how kind people are, and that they don't want anything, they just want to show you their country, and they just want, to talk to you. And because he didn't want anything, like he didn't ask me for anything. He didn't, he didn't imply that, oh, pay me or anything like that. He was generally just happy to meet, a foreigner, a tourist in his country.
And that happened in a country where you were scared to go alone.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's nice. Well, I think that's a good lesson for everyone, because the media is quite dangerous, because they're giving this image to countries, and people are like, oh, here is so dangerous, here, watch out. It's not just being dangerous, but other things, and a lot of people are just listening and believing to what they see, hear, and read. While if you can explore that by yourself, if you are just a little bit brave to go through, to the little jungle that is out there, you got through late buses, lost luggage, and overbooking of flights and all these things. And I don't know, at the end there is still some positivity. So there is positivity everywhere. It's sooner or later it comes. By the way, okay, when did you find out that you're not gonna get your luggage?
Well, I kept trying calling the airport and nobody would answer.
They will not answer. They ghosted you. They know your number. Like, oh no, this is the lady. We lost her luggage. No. So you didn't get it even when you came back after nothing.
When I went back to Milano, a nice lady actually managed to track it down.
Where was it? In Alaska?
I don't know where it was, but then I got it back. I think sometimes in February.
February. That's 2 months.
And I came back on the 1st of January. Yeah. But the story kind of continues. Like, obviously there's no internet. He doesn't have an email address, or, but I'm still in contact with the guide.
You write letters?
Havana. No, he actually got married with one of the girls in the
from the tour.
In the tour, yeah.
Wait, how old was this guy?
He was young, and she was young as well. And yeah, they just fell in love during that tour. And
so you keep in touch with him?
I got very good friends with her.
So you keep in touch with him through her?
Every time they do like a trip, or like, it hasn't happened lately because of the pandemic, but I used to send a package to him, and like essentials in Cuba are really hard to get, like deodorant or toothpaste or toothbrushes, and essentials for kids. So I used to go to Poundland and spend like 20 quid, 30 quid in Poundland, and for 30 quid in Poundland you get a lot of things. And yeah, I used to just put them in a box and then give her the box, and she would take it to Cuba, and then they would always send me a picture with him and the yeah.
Oh wow, that's nice. Okay, well, what is your intake from this story and final message to the listeners and the viewers?
So my message is, like, when things happen, like when life puts you face to face with somebody, I mean, I would just say, like, say yes to opportunities, like say yes to things that, obviously listen to your instinct. Like, if somebody would have been like, oh, let's go to that dark alley, not let's go for a coffee, but like, think rationally. Is it bad to go for a coffee in a public place? Just take the opportunity, because there's so many amazing things in this world. And my general thought, like, after traveling for the past, I don't even know how many years, is that people are good. Like, in general, people are good. So yeah, that's my advice. Just don't, and try to be open to the local culture. Like, I know that sometimes when you travel with friends or when you travel with your partner, you're not that open to the locals, but try to be, and then you'll have such amazing experiences. You'll actually get to know how people live and how life is there, and how, just understand more, because this is the only way that you will open your mind, and you will see that the world is just beautiful, and the people living in it are just beautiful.
I agree. We should just try and explore it ourselves, because if you think about it, we as humans can do so many bad things. Like it's so easy to drive through people or just stab people all the time. But in general, we are good. I agree. Okay, that was great finale, I would say. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm looking forward one day, maybe we can do an Andalusian episode and you can tell us a bit more about the time you lived.
Definitely. Yeah, I know a lot of hidden places. Like I know a lot of people, just know Granada, Cordoba, Malaga, but I know a lot of hidden places.
Beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure our listeners as well. Thanks so much, Joanna. And I wish you a fantastic evening and see you in the next episode.
Thank you very much.